Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kentucky Small Business Development Center's weekly webinar. I'm glad you're here today. I'm Dave Etkin. I'm the director of the SBDC Center in Louisville, Kentucky. And as everybody kind of joins, I see a lot of you joining now and getting settled. I'd like to take a couple minutes to share some information about the Kentucky Small Business Development Center program. The Kentucky Small Business Development Center is the only statewide, nationally accredited program that provides entrepreneurial and business development services to assist Kentucky's entrepreneurs and small businesses at every stage of their life cycle. For almost 40 years, Kentucky SBDC has assisted emerging and growing businesses by providing the professional expertise, tools, and information necessary for entrepreneurs to start, fund, and grow their businesses. We do this at no cost, thanks to the U.S. Small Business Administration, the University of Kentucky, as well as regional universities, colleges, and local economic development agencies. To learn more, visit us at KentuckySBDC.com. There you'll find additional resources to help start, fund, and grow your business. To request personal assistance, email us at info@KentuckySBDC.com or give us a call at 1-888-475-7232. If you look to the right of your screen, you'll find the chat feature. So if you have any questions, for our presenter, please post them there and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. And just to test, as always, that you can see everything and you can hear us well, go ahead and tell us hello and tell us where you're joining from. I see Berna's already kind of popped in there. And again, I'm Dave Etkin. I'm the director of the Louisville Center. I'm one of 17 centers throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And just so you know, a recording of today's webinar will be emailed you to this afternoon. Hello, Tony. Good to see you. We have a very special guest today. Sire Klinke is a marketing specialist, copywriter, and he is just a unique resource for people, small business owners. He's going to talk to us a little bit about Facebook advertising and how to kind of use that to drive your business forward. He has a unique methodology where he uses some information from Myers-Briggs to really build up a relationship with your customers, really make them sticky. It's really a cool story. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit towards the end, but we're going to focus on Facebook today, Sire. So I'm so happy you're here. So let's just dive right in.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so as David was saying, I'm here to talk about Facebook marketing for small businesses. Facebook, and just like a little bit of a background on Facebook, we all know what Facebook is as a platform, and it started in 2004 by Mark Zuckerberg. In 2017, Facebook started releasing its first versions of what we know today as Facebook advertising or Facebook ads. And that was kind of introduced with a couple larger companies. I believe Victoria's Secret was one of the ones that started originally the testing, and then they opened it up to small businesses pretty quickly after making sure that some of the larger companies were able to see some benefit. Right now, it's estimated that 3 million small businesses, so those are businesses with 100 or less employees, are currently advertising using Facebook today. And then also, too, right now, Facebook owns Instagram, and the way the Facebook ads are set up is any of the ads you run on Facebook, you can also run simultaneously on Instagram, and it'll kind of track also to the same target market equivalent. And so that's something that we're trying to get some of our users that are already marketing on Facebook to be willing to open up a little bit more to also marketing on Instagram. I think this is a bigger benefit than a lot of small businesses have realized just yet. So that's just a little bit of history on Facebook. I don't want to spend too much time on that because that's not all that important. But it is worth it to point out that Facebook was originally started as a social media site, but has kind of become more of an advertising platform than anything. And I'll go into explaining that in one of the next slides. So one of my favorite books, Socialnomics, written by Eric Qualman, he has a quote in the book saying, we don't have a choice on whether we do social media. The question is how well we do it. At the beginning when social media came out, there wasn't a lot of opportunities to advertise. It was more of a social and organic platform for businesses to just have a presence. And again, in 2007 is when they kind of opened it up more towards paid advertising, which has kind of turned into what we look at now as boosting posts. But, you look back about, 5 to 6 years ago, even then post them creating the ads, there was a little bit of a pushback on whether or not the ads were worth it. And I think, the fact that a lot of people that are leaders in social media marketing, such as Eric Qualman and several of our Wizard of Ads partners, have been pushing since the beginning to adopt, whether it be from a more organic stance or from paid advertising, which we'll talk about both in this video. It's definitely worth having a presence, if nonetheless. I like to tell my clients, and when I do presentations like this, to think of Facebook as a marketing channel rather than just a social channel. And one of the reasons I say this is I like to compare Facebook and social media to the radio. So when advertisers advertise on the radio, they're paying for their ads to be listened to, but listeners aren't paying to listen to the radio. You might have to pay to have a radio, whether it's in your car or at home, but you're not paying for the service that the radio stations are providing. It's the advertisers that are paying for that with the ad dollars. Much like that, social media is run in a very similar way. As users, we don't pay to be on social media and use it. We pay with our own time and that we spend being exposed to ads. As advertisers are paying for ads, that's what keeps social media afloat. So what I've been trying to challenge a lot of business owners to do is to think of social media more in the business realm as a marketing channel than just a social channel, and to be willing to explore boosting and putting a little bit more money behind some of their posts and their ads to explore what it can do for their individual business growth, which can change depending on your goals and the strategy that you decide to use within the social media realm, whether it be Facebook or another platform. When it comes to Facebook and Facebook advertising, there's a couple different ways that you can do it. So traditional posts is an organic way that a lot of businesses develop and maintain a presence on social media. And if you have enough of a following or enough engagement or a combination of the two, that can do a lot in growing your business by itself without having to funnel a lot of money into it. And that's going to show up on your business page. Again, it's organic, so you're not paying for it to show up. You can boost the post, which we'll talk about in a second, which will show it to more people. And on the traditional post, that can be everything from articles, audios, website links, video, photos, and now it can even be a variety of other tools that are offered to businesses. You can do polls to kind of see what people are interested in, and you can do other ways of interacting as well. One of the other organic lanes that a lot of businesses use on Facebook is the Facebook stories. So on the profile, there's typically a circle with the profile picture, and around it, if there's a live story, you'll see some sort of lighting going around, depending on what the story might be. It could be white, it could be blue, it could be a variety of colors if it's related to a charity or to an event going on. But those stories only last for 24 hours. You can use it as an opportunity to highlight something that's been posted as a post, so you just share it to your story. Your story can be something creative in itself that is specifically to share information. And that's kind of the point of the stories, is to share information quickly and an easily accessible way. And it's also an easy way to get engagement. So stories also offer things like polls, things like opportunities for people to ask questions, and other ways to engage. So I would say the Facebook stories are more of a way to attract people to your page that already are followers in a way that's easily interactive and engaging. You can also use Facebook stories to attract new followers, but most of that, I believe, is going to be from traditional posts being shared or boost. Which brings me to the next section of Facebook advertising, which is when you're actually paying. And it can either be a paid advertisement or a boosted post. So a boosted post would be a post you already boosted, or when you already posted, and then you're adding money to the post afterwards. Which brings up why I think that Facebook especially, and social media marketing in general, is a channel that hasn't really reached its max potential yet, small businesses. Unlike radio, unlike TV, unlike AdWords, with social media, you get the opportunity to put a post out there, see how it performs as content, and then decide if you want to put money behind it if you would like. You don't get the opportunity to do that with any other marketing channel, which makes social media unique, especially for small businesses that have a limited audience or limited budget, because it allows you to really maximize the spend that you're putting into your ads. And you get a little bit more of, much like AdWords, you get a little bit more of a authentic estimation of how much exposure and how much engagement you'll get, because Facebook is taking that information in live and spitting it back out. Versus if you're doing radio or TV, there's a little bit of math you got to do to figure out where those conversions came from and how many of those conversions came from that particular channel or outlet. So as far as Facebook advertising goes, those are the three simplest ways to do it. Again, Facebook does, when you do boost posts or paid advertisements, it does give you the opportunity to do it on Facebook as just a general boost. It gives the opportunity to also do it on Instagram. And then it also, depending on the type of post, will give you the opportunity to put it in similar formats as, off to the side on Facebook or in a banner setting, both on the top or the bottom. And you can go in there and change whether or not you want it to appear there. That kind of gets a little bit deeper into Facebook posting than what I'm going to cover today. But I've already talked about coming back and doing a little bit more in depth with Eric if y'all are interested. Go to the next one. To know if an ad will perform before you spend any of your budget. So we kind of touched on that in the last slide. That I think is one of the biggest parts of social media advertising that small businesses can benefit from, regardless of how big their budget is. You can post, see how something does organically with the followers you have. If it does well, you can boost it. You can boost it both with the followers you already have, with similar audiences. So Facebook chooses the audience based off the followers you already have, or you can create a custom audience as well, or a combination of the three. And since we kind of already talked on that, we can skip to the next slide, which is tailoring your target market. So one step above what we were just talking about, how you can narrow that target market when you're advertising. One of the ways that I narrow it down typically is by interest. So Facebook allows you to use the ad publishing tool to set specifically who you want to see your ads. And one of the areas that I found the most success in is by interest. So say your business is like mine and you're looking at finding people that are small business owners looking for someone who helps with marketing. So some of the interests I would look into would be like entrepreneurship, marketing, small business owners, and then you can kind of guess from there what the other ones would be. And definitely I would say each business, especially small businesses, has their own unique niches and unique areas that they serve, to where you can tailor that to be more towards your client versus your competitors' clients, or vice versa. There's different strategies you can take in choosing who it is you market to. Another way you can narrow down your market is by location. So you can say, I've got a brick and mortar location, and I'm really only looking at people within 25 to 30 miles of my brick and mortar location. Or you could also say, hey, I'm selling more online. So I don't need, to narrow it down necessarily by location in the sense of how close can I get people to me, but you can broaden it. Say you ship to the US and Canada. So we can say, hey, we're looking at US and Canada, targeting these cities because we already know that we're getting good traction there. And then another one is I touched a little bit on it on the previous slide, is audiences like the current ones following you. So there is an option where you can have Facebook or Instagram or both, depending on how you're doing your ad publishing tool setup. But the audience the one currently following you, allows Facebook to then kind of find the interests, find the location, find the things that are unique and the things that are in common amongst your current followers that they can then try to tap into potential customers that are similar to them. So it kind of takes away the stress of you having to decide who you want to target. And for small businesses, especially if you've got a very limited budget and not a lot of experience in Facebook marketing, but you want to give it a go on your own, I would recommend starting off with allowing Facebook to choose your target audience, and then and it'll tell you kind of sort of who they chose and why. If you go in and look in the details. And so you can then see, okay, this did work or this didn't work. Let's take another approach next time, or let's do this again and see for how long we can, continue to use the tools that Facebook's already put into place to make it streamlined and easier for you. I think this is one of the areas that people like me are very knowledgeable in, on, again, how to target your market, but business owners might not necessarily know where to start. But these three topics right here, just by interest, location, and current following, are the ones that I see really making the biggest difference in the clients I work with. And they range in all different industries. So I would say that would pretty much tell me that across Facebook marketing, that's probably pretty true. Facebook plus Instagram. So of course we talked about it a little bit already. Facebook does own Instagram. And the way they currently have their ad campaigns set up is so that you can do one campaign on two platforms simultaneously. So the cool things about that is when you do it, Facebook will kind of alter the ads a little bit to be dynamic. So it'll kind of put the ad the best out there presentation wise on the Facebook platform for Facebook users, and then do the same thing for Instagram. For example, I run the Wizard of Ads partner page for Facebook. And when I post one of our articles that one of the partner writes to Facebook, there is an option to boost it as a boosted post, where it'll show it on Instagram. Well, I don't know if many of y'all do marketing on Instagram, but there are some barriers to entry to certain tools to market your business, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I do understand why Instagram does them. For example, you have to have so many followers or so much engagement in order to put a link in an actual story or an actual post to learn more, unless you're boosting the post. So for articles, it's hard to post articles to Instagram organically, but you can get a lot of results from boosting articles on Facebook, which will then show up on Instagram with a learn more, or I think there's about 12 button options, depending on what your outcome action is that you want from your particular user. In this case, I'd want them to go to the article on the website. So there are ways to use both platforms based off of what they're best at doing, and taking advantage of the boosting and the paid advertisements in situations like that, where it might be selectively only with articles, so that we can make sure that Instagram's seeing it too, not just Facebook. So there you've got that dynamic ad capacity, as well as the cross-platform branding, which kind of fit into the same box. The cross-platform branding, though, some of the things that it allows you to do is if you're posting from Facebook or you're posting from Instagram, it can go either direction, and you have them linked up. You do have the option to post one post that will then go on to both platforms in a dynamic ad way, to where it'll show up the best way on either platform. So then you can also track the performance together as well. I typically track my performance more on Facebook, just because you have a little bit more of an easier to use platform. I use the ad tool, but the cross-platform branding is also great too with your stories. You can post to a story on one platform and have it go to both platforms. So it just kind of keeps consistency throughout your brand, and whether it's you running your social media platform, whether you have someone in-house, an intern, or you're paying someone like me to help you out, It definitely makes everything easier, both for the person posting and for the end user, because you can pretty much navigate social media from that point like you would a website. And then brandability, of course, the more space and time you're getting in front of potential customers when they need your service, especially if you're looking long-term sales. So something more like air conditioning, something more service-based where it's not an everyday buy. You do want to make sure that your branding is as consistent as possible so that you're taking into consideration that the frequency that they get exposure to your brand, the more they're going to think of you when they need your service. And so I think brandability is another reason why engaging on both platforms, even if it is one post goes to both, is important if you have the bandwidth and capacity to do so. And again, there are different rules too. I just want to touch on this for a moment because I don't know who's in the audience as far as different industries. But there are a lot of rules in certain industries on what can and can't be posted and advertised on Instagram and Facebook and other social media platforms, as well as AdWords, which is a different conversation. But on that, there is always ways to do so. It might not necessarily be as sales oriented as much as it's relationship oriented. But even if you're in one of those industries, such as like CBD, legal cannabis, healthcare services or healthcare supplies, or any business to business where you might have some rules, alcohol as well, you might have some rules as to where and how you can advertise, or whether or not you can give price points as part of the advertisement. And there are ways to still be present, still be branding on those platforms without breaking any of those rules. I would just suggest a more relational strategy rather than a sales-based strategy. Some of what I'm talking about today is focused more on the sales-based strategy, which is why I want to mention that. But I like to do an even balance of both. But because Facebook and Instagram are kind of on that the click-based marketing, there is some push towards making sales. So we're going to come to the next slide over here. We talked a little bit already about the Facebook publishing tool. Facebook is working continuously to make the process easier and easier for businesses, especially businesses with smaller budgets and with less access to maybe some of the content creation that their competitors might have. And I would invite you to explore the Facebook Publish tool. You don't have to publish things to create. You can create things and see how they turn out. Not ever publishing them, just kind of see the preview and get comfortable with what the options are if it's something that you think you're going to tackle yourself. But Facebook has done an amazing job to really break down how to put the ads together in a way that I feel, at least at the beginning, most small business owners can start to create that presence themselves, or feel comfortable enough in the process to have a conversation with someone like me and feel like they know what they're talking about in requesting or specific strategies or specific types of ads as well. And Facebook again has done a lot into integrating tools like this into their platform. And it can be as easy as when you pull up your Facebook page, you pull up your most recent post, there'll be a little blue button in the right-hand corner that says boost post or boost post again. It's as easy as that to start an ad. So they really are doing as much as they can to improve the usability side for the small businesses in order to give y'all a little bit more confidence and courage to get in there. And honestly, I recommend anybody just going in there and taking a peek, whether they feel comfortable posting on their own or not, just to get an idea of a little bit more in depth of what I'm talking about. Things to look at when getting started in Facebook advertising. Again, when we talked at the very beginning, I said the part of social media advertising that I think is, not taken advantage as much as it should by small businesses is the opportunity to see how a post does organically before you put money behind it. So some of the things I say to look at when you get started. So this is, you're already starting to post and you're trying to figure out which posts you might be interested in boosting, which posts you might be interested in kind of taking, the way you created that post, kind of reverse engineering your next future posts to get similar engagement. So I apologize, this slide didn't turn out quite as well, but I know what it says, so I'll let y'all know. What posts do best? So can you tell which posts are getting the most engagement or reach towards your business goal? So again, on the Facebook publishing platform, there'll be a section where you've got each post kind of listed in what appears kind of like an Excel spreadsheet kind of setting. And then it'll tell you how the post is performing, how many clicks you've gotten, the engagement percentage, and you can kind of change what it tells you to based off of, again, your business goals and what you're looking for. But you can kind of, again, based off those goals, determine which posts are, doing better in the mindset of how we're trying to achieve those goals. And then another one would be why. Why are those posts doing better? Can we reverse engineer and try to figure out, take apart and dissect why those posts are doing better than some of the other posts? Could it be the content, the copywriting? Could it be the actual content of the post, whether it be a picture, whether it be a video, whether it be an article or something else? Or is it something that we're doing on the back end? So think of like SEO before your post. So is it got to do with the hashtags we're using? Does it have to do with the market that we're engaging with? Do we target using, boosts? If we haven't yet done that, can we tell who's already looked at it and engaged with it? Can we tell, is it mostly women, mostly men? What are their interests? And there are some ways to do that. Again, it's just going in and playing with the publishing tool and figuring out, where those are and what relates to your specific business and those goals that you're trying to achieve. Engagement to sales. So your post might be getting a ton of engagement, but is that leading to sales, right? And that's probably the biggest problem I see in small business advertising with businesses that take on the task of advertising on social media on their own, is knowing whether or not your engagement, is going to lead to sales, if it's leading to sales, or if you're spending your money for engagement that truly isn't doing much more than making that post look better. And yes, engagement is important. I'm not trying to negotiate that at all, but it really only matters if it's leading to sales at the end of the day. And of course, some of that just has to do with, our goals, our strategy. What are we trying to do as far as like, what actions are we enticing our customers we're engaging with into doing? Are we trying to get them to go to a specific spot on our page? Are we trying to get them to go, learn more about our website? Are we trying to get them to come to a different spot on our social media platform? And, creating those sales funnels is really important. And I know some of y'all have heard from Dave Young, my business partner, before, and sales funnels, especially digital sales funnels, are one of his specialties. Whether it be in the digital social media world or on websites. But, creating that engagement to sales funnel is vital for, turning an engaging social media account into an actual part of your business that's channeling true sales, and not just potential customers, but customers that are going to last and come back and buy from you again. And that's kind of what we talk about when we talk about relational customers and relational marketing, which we'll touch at the very end on off topic in that Myers-Briggs once I get through these slides. So again, these are the things that you can look at evaluating your posts organically before putting money into them, or when you are starting to funnel money into them, kind of looking at, what posts are doing the best. How can we make the posts we do in the future, kind of contend with those top posts? And, a lot of it is just like most of the marketing world at the beginning. And I would still call social media a new marketing platform that's still getting its start. It's still beginning. It is a lot of trial and error. And there is, as y'all hear about, constantly, probably not as much as me, but I hear about it constantly, is the algorithms changing and stuff like that. And, I can sit here and and go into that too. And, I will, if I have a little bit of extra time, on like the current algorithm, especially on Instagram and Facebook, and how to be boosting some of those as well, those engagements. But a lot of it does have to do with keeping up to date on where social media platforms are in how they're functioning with small businesses. So, I'll just hit on it right now. Right now, elephant in the room, when you look at Facebook and Instagram, their algorithm right now is giving the most response. So you think you're getting these actions by customers and potential customers in your market, and then Instagram and Facebook are responding to those engagements that your post is getting, and based off those engagements, showing your post then to similar people or people in your target, if you targeted people in your targeted market, your posts. So the more engagement your post gets in these areas, the more your posts get shown to new people who aren't already in your current Facebook page following, or your Instagram following, or your audience. So right now, the most responsive is going to be if someone saves your post. And I know as a business owner, this might sound a little bit backwards, but again, this algorithm changes on a regular basis, and kind of keeping up with it is important. Right now, though, saves on a post gets the most response as far as Facebook, Instagram, then boosting it because of that engagement, followed by if it is shared via direct message or through someone's story. So if someone shares it, so I like this post, I'm going to share it to, say, Dave Young in his direct message. Facebook and or Instagram would see that and then show the post, as a reward to people that haven't already been exposed to my post. And so the more of those engagements we get, the more our post goes out organically without us paying for it, but in a new audience. And so, again, it goes saved post, sent post, and then likes, and then comments, right? And again, these are changing all the time. A month from now, they could be in a different order, or could be have a little bit more or less weight that they carry in the algorithm. Again, they don't release the full algorithm. You just kind of get an idea of what they're focusing on for the next growth period. But if you are able to kind of take that into consideration, you can create your Facebook posts and your Facebook ads to kind of get those engagements organically. So not only are you paying for ads potentially, but you're also really making sure your organic potential is at its highest as it possibly can be. And again, there's a lot of different ways to do that. Those are just a few areas to focus on. Using customer experiences to sell and engage on Facebook. So this is also another way that you can organically get your business's name out there without putting a lot of money behind it. And then eventually you can put money behind it as a strategy as well. But that's when you have share-worthy products or service, your customers are going to have the urge to share them on social media, right? And some customers do that organically on their own, and some of them might need a little bit more enticing. And, it also kind of depends on your business as well. Some industries kind of cultivate that culture a little bit more than others organically without asking. But there's other ways that you can kind of get that engagement as well. And, that can be everything from promotions like, hey, if you post a picture, we'll send you 10% off coupon for your next visit. Or, some, it could just be enough to be added to your own engagement. So, we'll share posts of any of our customers who, share a review of their product on their own. And again, also too, that's advertising for you as well. If they share it on their page, that's organic advertising with an entirely different audience. And instead of it being a cultivated ad that you created, it is an authentic review from a user. So the weight that holds, especially with people that know them personally, is going to be a lot more than anything you or I as a business owner could ever say, because we don't know that individual personally. So there's also ways you can take advantage of that, both as a content creator. So you can be kind of harvesting that organic content from those users. And I would recommend, depending on what your product or service is, and maybe having a little bit of a, hey, we just wanted to reach out and make sure it's okay if we use your, photo. Or there's an app called a Repost, where it'll repost and give them credit in the bottom with their username. Typically, either of those two ways, most customers will allow you to share the post. But it also gives you an opportunity to show, like, hey, this isn't just us saying this, like, hear this from a real user. So you think like the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s, when there were a lot of, still weight put on and in TV. Now it's more of the money is put, I think, more into digital advertising, but like in the personal reviews, whether it be celebrity, whether it just be influencers or just a general person, I think, those particular areas of engagement are moving more towards the digital world, and you can take advantage of that for free. You don't have to pay for it. And then, of course, once you create the post or share the post, you then can boost it with money. But it isn't something that you have to do with money. It is something you can start with organically. And even if you're not ready to start posting content that was created by customers, I would still suggest, whether it's a folder on your, on your desktop, saving those photos, saving those engagements, because you never do know when you are going to, need an authentic piece of content that shows a real user that's not enticed by, our own jaded views of what our business is. So I think I covered that topic of sales and engagement pretty well, as far as organically cultivating content from your customers as well. If your business isn't already on Facebook, the best thing to do is to start today. Rinse and repeat that for all the other main social medias. Instagram, I think a lot of businesses, I apologize for my early morning misspelling. I feel like a lot of businesses, don't necessarily give LinkedIn the credit it should get as well. I think LinkedIn is a business to business social media presence and platform that I think a lot of businesses in the small business realm aren't taking advantage of that they should. I will say I've gotten a lot of questions recently as a social media marketer on TikTok and how to approach TikTok. And I'm just going to touch on it for a moment because I feel like the question might already be there, or if someone's thinking it. It is definitely a way to reach millennials and younger generation. It is a faster paced content platform. So shorter content, mainly video form, so 15-second, 30-second videos, and lots of repetition as far as frequency is what I've seen be really successful. But it, again, on what we hit on earlier, TikTok is not a sales-based platform for marketing. I don't even think they even, as far as I've seen, have many opportunities to sell off the platform as far as like click to. It's more of a relational marketing, and the businesses I've seen do the best have been relational. There's a lot of doctors and healthcare professionals that are really exploding on TikTok right now as far as marketing. And again, I think it's still really niche for who it would and wouldn't work for. But that being said, if you are marketing towards millennials and that younger generation, it might be something to look into. And again, I just briefly touched, in my opinion, on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, a little bit on TikTok too, on just kind of the basics. So if y'all would like more information, feel free to reach out to me personally. I know my email is being shared in the chat. I would love to talk to y'all about that, or as a group, I would love to come back and talk more in depth on it as well. If we wanted to look more specifically at organic, or if we wanted to look specifically at paid advertising, I believe, both of those would be areas worth, diving in more deeper into. But as that being just a portion of social media marketing, I do want to also touch on the fact that copy, your message, and the content do hold a lot of weight in the success of your social media marketing as well. It doesn't really matter how good you're doing at targeting your market. It doesn't really matter how good you're doing at, consistently posting, even if your content isn't where it needs to be. So we also need to be looking at the standard of our content that we're putting out there as well. And, like I said earlier, Facebook is making it easier for you to take content organically and turn it into ads with their production skills. But from the copy standpoint, I want to talk a little bit just for a moment on something that was mentioned at the very beginning when I was introduced, is that I work a lot with my copy in targeting Myers-Briggs personality types and approaching them in ways that they would prefer to engage with the company. So I'm going to break that down really quickly into a couple of different areas. And again, I'm open and coming back and doing a presentation on this more in depth. But you look at Myers-Briggs personality types and what you can do just in social media marketing with them, right? You can write your social media copy and content to them. You can also develop your content to them, right? Okay, so 2 different areas there. You can develop based off of a specific piece of content. So if I know I've got this piece of content that's talking about blogging, and a lot of my small business owners that prefer blogging content over video content are going to be more introverted, right? So maybe I'm going to tease that copy a little bit more towards an introverted person's realm of what they would be expecting or would be most responsive to in engagement. Or you also look to, there's been studies done with different social medias, different marketing channels and platforms. It goes way beyond social media. You look at radio, TV too, and down to different TV shows, down to different TV channels. What, preference do the particular, regular engagers there, have? Or is HBO, and this is just a random example, is HBO TV show, say Prodigal Son, are they mainly attracting more introverted, extroverted people? And then from there you can kind of break down. Now, do we have that information for everything? No, but we do have that information in some areas where you can take advantage of that. It's a little bit easier, I think, too, and when you're not thinking bigger scale like that, you're thinking small business. Okay, I'm a small business that wants to do, more Facebook engagement, and I know, the customers that are attracted to my business might be leaning more extroverted, so we can, go extroverted. There's 1,000 different ways to decide whether or not you want to, cultivate your copy towards a specific temperament or a specific personality type. And I say temperament too because, you've got the personality types that break down into 4 different segments. So for example, I'm ENFP. So they broke that into 4 different segments. Well, there's also 4 temperaments within the segments, right? Or within each personality variation. So temperament could be NF, ST, and so that takes away the variable of introverted, extroverted, right? So where you're looking at less variables. So you can also write copy, not necessarily to people being introverted or extroverted, but based off of how they're going to make that final decision-making process or how they're going to look at, the different factors in order to even get to the decision-making process. And that can also go down to not necessarily just in copy, but can also be the way you create that funnel. Again, Dave Young is a little bit more of the funnel creation expert when it comes to Myers-Briggs, but I'm sure if you talk to him, he would be willing to come in and kind of give you all the MBTI version and looking at the 2 factors together. But there's a lot you can do with it, both outside and within social media. The same things I just said you can do in social media, you can do in TV, you can do in radio, you can do on your website, you can do in Google AdWords. You can pretty much do it on any platform. It's more the mindfulness of trying to reach out to your customer in the way that they would be most responsive towards your business goal versus trying to reach out to your customers in necessarily what might be just the easiest platform to get a message out, or versus, something that we use as a term in Wizard of Ads is being inside the bottle, or being inside the forest. So you're so inside the forest that you can't see some of the trees because you're in there, versus, if you turn around and you're trying to put your advertisements out there in a way that, like, what kind of engagement am I trying to get from my customers, and how can I meet them in the way that they process information to get that engagement, your results might be a little bit different. So on that note, I think I've kind of given y'all a bunch of information in a very short amount of time. So I think I'm going to break out and see if there's any questions y'all might have, or any areas that y'all might want me to go a little bit more in depth. I was trying to hit everything we had talked about before. So hold on one second. I'm having a sound issue on my end.
Oh, yeah, sorry. There we go.
Great, we should be good.
Thank you. Thanks for all that. That's quite a bit. So if you guys have any questions, you'd like to post them in the chat box there, and we'll talk to Sarah a bit about that. I do have a question about. It seems to me that everything you've kind of explained, some of the tools that you've gone over, that really it sounds like the first step is to kind of figure out what your customer persona is. Is that probably the best place to start on this?
I would say business goals with your advertising, and then also trying to figure out like who that target customer is. And it doesn't have to be, we're only looking for this person. Like I was talking at the beginning, it could be more of, think like a market, trying to hit, not necessarily, sniper style, but maybe a little bit more, shotgun. But you think, you're trying to create that target market. And, there's different ways also too that you can hit that target market. So we can also go in there and say, hey, we're going to create 3 different ads, 3 different pieces of content. We can start it organically too, and say this one's going to be more geared towards our introverted customers, more towards our extroverted customers. Or we can even sit there and be like, we're going to gear this towards our customers that are looking for that emotional sale. Or we're going to look more for the customers looking for that, technical sale. They're going to be looking a little bit more at the details versus how they feel. And then from there, you can then target each of those separately as well. So you don't have to necessarily pick, a single ideal customer. You can still stick with, these are my target customers, and, I can reach them in different ways. And that's kind of also too what I'm trying to get more of, my potential clients to look at is, don't just look at, hey, I'm only targeting, this person right here. Like, let's target multiple, of your customers, but let's do it in, more dynamic ways. And I also think it does, especially on social media, long-term save money when you do slightly more targeted ads versus, I'm hitting everyone in North America over the age of 25.
All right. So if you folks have any questions, go ahead and post them in the chat, and we'll get to them. What I hear a lot is that from people that when they first start jumping on Facebook.
I don't know why, but I had another issue with hearing on that.
Another thing that I hear a lot from folks that as they begin to start to post on Facebook and do some marketing, they tend to focus on the frequency of whatever they're going to do. So it's like I need to post at least 3 times a day. It really doesn't matter what I do as long as I get something out there. That's probably not the right way to do that.
One more time, sorry.
Okay. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. So people that business owners that I speak to, and they're starting to do some marketing on Facebook, they tend to jump in first and focus on frequency of posting. Like I have to post 3 times a day, or I'm not going to get any bang for my buck, or anything. That's probably not the right strategy to start with.
So there's different strategies, definitely. Most strategies do kind of to an extent revolve around consistent posting. Is there a magic number that works for every business? Absolutely not. Again, it kind of does also come down to the engagement of your followers and your, the market that you're going after as well. I do typically try to keep my personal clients that I work with, helping them post between 2 and 3 minimum a week. But that being said, I very, very, very much believe that the message and the quality of the post should always outride that. Because if you have low quality content going out consistently, it's not going to have the same effect as high quality content going out at the same frequency. So if you can only afford to produce so much content per month, there's nothing wrong with growing into a more frequent schedule. And to be completely honest, I have run into issues with some of my online sales clients who sell products online, where if we do grow too fast, sometimes they don't have the product to push out. And you kind of create a little bit of a bubble issue there. So there is some benefit to, and again, I like to break down each individual strategy based on that customer and their long-term goals. So there is a lot of benefit to growing, with your business on your posting consistency as well, if it's an area that you struggle in. Because also to Facebook and Instagram, other social medias as well, but not as much. Those two platforms do reward you for those increases in frequency. So even if you were to only be able to do 1 or 2 posts a week and build it up to 3 or 4, that's okay. Facebook will actually reward you for that change over time too. So it's not something to freak out about as much as I have seen some marketing people do. And as I touched on earlier, social media is an ever-evolving platform. So some of the things we worry about now are things that were not even on the radar 5-10 years ago. So was it a little bit more, yes, no, we need to be in there posting yeah. If we were starting, at the big boom of social media, I would have been a little bit more aggressive versus now I feel like, if you are a business just starting and you have competition already on social media, you don't just want to jump in and be posting as much as you can. You want to make sure that you're competing with quality of content as well. And that's not a bad place to start. So don't get discouraged.
Thank you. Lisa, hello, Lisa. She asked, is it true you should post things other than what your business is about? So if your business is about selling hair products, you should also post about sayings or savings or clothes, or should you always just stay on your product?
Kind of varies, I guess, depending on strategy. I would say you do see benefit as a business if you kind of range a little bit outside of your product realm, but not to the point where you're going to mess up the consistency we were just talking about. You definitely do want a majority of the content going out related to your business, what you're selling, your customers, etc. Now, I would not make every single post I post a product, a sale, or related to specifically only a storefront. So ways our company's giving back to the community. And a lot of businesses, and Dave Young, who I think's presented with you guys before, is one of my business partners. He does a lot with blog content for small businesses. And that's a really easy way to do that, Lisa, where you can be talking about other topics while it's still relating back to your company website and directing people back to your company website. So you're not directing people away from your page, but you can still be hitting on some of those other topics. Again, I would do it regularly, but not to where it would affect the sales-based consistency posts. But I definitely think it does have a benefit. Right now in today's business market, I would say sharing other small businesses' posts to your page that are businesses you support, or like say you're a small business that might go to different events and there's another small business that also goes to those events, where y'all can be kind of cross branding, getting people to show up. So like I'm thinking small businesses that attend farmers markets or conventions, that could be an easy way to cross brand and get some other products out there, or content out there that's not just sales driven, while also promoting other companies that will promote you back. Another area you can do that is like similarly with nonprofits, you can kind of do the same thing. I would not post anything that has to do with competition. If it's someone that could directly steal a client from you, I would try to stay away from that. But there's also ways where you can kind of like dance along that edge with content as a copywriter, maybe blog posting about like, why is my, business different than my competition, without name dropping competition. You can kind of, create a little bit of that differentiation. I'm hoping, I kind of tried to hit on that question with a couple different answers for you, Lisa, but I hope that, that at least hit what you were looking for.
Oh, thank you. That was great. Early on, you were talking about using some of the tools to focus on interest of different individuals. Is there a way to kind of pin that so that let's just say there's a business starting out from scratch and they want to target all restaurant owners in a certain area? Is there a way to tweak that so that you can be industry specific and search and build your list that way?
Yes. So, and that might be me taking a little bit more time to create, a presentation where I can dive into those and actually show you through video, which, we can totally set up doing in the next few weeks if you'd like. It might be just a little bit easier to explain with a visual. But yes, so when you go in and you do the tweaking on the market, the target market, you can go in there and you can choose, like I said, interests. And then there's other categories like interests. So there is one where you can target business owners. And it doesn't go super specific into categories. So a lot of times what I'll do is target small business owners with an interest in, and then the interest is the category. And you can kind of play, and again, it's a little bit of trial and error. You can kind of play with those methods, but you definitely can target down to things that specific. I try not to target down on gender, just because too, you don't know who's running a social media account either. So even if you're targeting a category that might be dominated by men, the person running their social media account or the person that their like website set up under might actually be a woman, which might set off those statistics. So that is the one category that I do not target down on, is male or female. And then again, I have had one or two customers that have had products that have been gender specific. But you think about it too, as a man, I have bought some feminine products before from the store, as I think most men who have been in relationships with women have, and vice versa. Our female significant others have bought razors and shaving cream and all sorts of, male targeted products, and so you think just because you're targeting based off of a product doesn't mean that the decision maker in the household is actually the gender related to that product. So that is the only area that I try to stay away from, as far as like targeting down on, is I usually leave gender alone. And also too, it does typically bring your price per click down a little bit, just because you aren't targeting as much. So if you're also looking to save a couple cents, there's another way.
Nice. Just want to let you know that Lisa said thank you for your answer there a minute ago. That was a great idea, she said. So it looks like that's all the questions we have, and we are at the kind of the top of the hour. So Sarah, I want to thank you for a great presentation today. And
absolutely.
Yeah, well, I know everybody would like to have you back and explore a little bit more some of these other things. So we'll talk about that here in the next week or two and get you on the schedule again, if you don't mind joining us again. I know everybody really like that.
And you touched on earlier, I kind of have fallen into being a bit of a jack of all trades in the digital marketing world. So I think I could probably touch on a couple of different subjects that people would be interested in. So if there's anything y'all think about, y'all have my email address at the top of the chat. Feel free to email me today, tomorrow, next week, months from now. You could be on Facebook and notice something different and have a question about it. Hit me up. I'm pretty available, especially in the afternoons. If it's early in the morning, you don't get a response, that's okay. But I typically give same day responses. So always welcome to help.
Nice. Thank you so much. This has been great. And thanks everybody for joining us today. And we'll see you next week. Have a great Wednesday. See ya.
Bye, guys.